Your old man character is a third genius. Is that? I don't think that's putting too fine a point on it.
No, I think pho is his art, I mean, really. And he, in the absence of, during different times in Vietnamese history, especially North Vietnamese history, when all the cows have disappeared. Under the communist regime, like there's nothing available in the shops that you're obligated to, use your ration coupons, where you're obliged to spend your ration coupons. There's nothing in there that can be used to even constitute a pho. So he's got this very creative imagination. Like, how can I make this happen? How can I constitute a kind of viable broth? How can I replicate a noodle in the absence of rice? So he uses pondweed, which he pounds into a kind of paste, and then he leaves it to dry, and then he cuts those kind of dried pondweed pancakes into strips, and he makes a kind of passable noodle. It's a bit green, and then he realizes, I need to use the heart of the pondweed, which is whiter, and I mean, just a very kind of creative and inventive, and trying to replicate something which is so fundamental to Vietnamese culture in the absence of all the tools and the resources. He's quite an inspiring man.
If he's old Vietnam, then Tu is the young new Vietnam. I mean, he's got the Nikes. He's head stuffed full of stupid American trivia.
He's the new Vietnam for sure, and not just in terms of kind of what he knows about the West and his sort of savvy about things Western, and his ability to negotiate between cultures, because he works as a tour guide. It's also, funnily enough, he's so governed by kind of family principles, Confucianist and Buddhist principles. It's his job as a firstborn and only son to take care of his parents. He will live with them for the rest of his life. His wife, the woman he eventually marries, will live with them too. And so in many ways he is the new Vietnam, which is kind of, it reconciles these things which might seem like contradictions, but they aren't. So the kind of the principles of old and the possibilities and opportunities of new, and the ways in which these can be combined, really is, I think, the new Vietnam.
We also have a Vietnamese woman who's not Vietnamese. So explain what, and there's even a term for it.
There's a term that's pretty derogatory called Viet Kieu, which I think means sojourner. And there's been a history of animosity toward the Viet Kieu, especially in the North. They're viewed as, they were traitors. They fled the communist regime. They fled the country.
Even if they fled when they were 2?
Even if they fled when they were 2. And so the term is used as a pejorative. It's an uncomfortable term, for this character Maggie. Maggie left Vietnam. She was airlifted out of Saigon just before what we call the fall of Saigon, what the North Vietnamese call the liberation of Saigon. She ends up in Minneapolis with her mother. She's estranged from her, well, not estranged, her father is meant to follow but never follows. And so this is a principal mystery in her life, what has happened to him.
He's going to take the next helicopter, except there isn't one.
Except there isn't one.
Heartbreak.
She's searching for some kind of answers about what has happened to him, but she's also, like I think so many immigrants, has a kind of nostalgia about place and about home, and she's very much an American, and that's how people read her. She comes back as Viet Kieu, as a sojourner returning, but there's a very complicated relationship. It's not only that you leave Vietnam, you leave for the U.S., who you're at war with. So that's really complicated. That's part of the pejorative kind of notion that's attached to the term. So here she is very American, and in some ways her connection with Tu at first is about kind of his shared interest in America, and even though she's trying to find an interest in Vietnam.
This is also one of the best love stories.
I don't want to give too much away about the love story, but Hung, as a character who I was writing into being, this old man, you get to know your characters in this way, and you think, well, gosh, have you ever had love in your life? You sort of ask that question. You think, surely, in all the decades that you've lived through, there's been love in your life. And so that's how the story of Lan, who is a neighbor from whom he's estranged, an old woman herself now, But something happened in their past. They do not speak to each other, and yet they've lived together, beside each other for 45 years.
And then you find little things like, oh yeah, I don't talk to her, but I leave food out for her all the time.
Yeah, I still take care of her, and and food is the way he expresses his love, and there's a mystery at the heart of that too. What happened between these two, and why are they still compelled to live side by side, even if it is in silence?
The book is The Beauty of Humanity Movement. I've been speaking with the author Camilla Gibb, and The Beauty of Humanity Movement is published by Doubleday Canada.